I have been very fortunate to have travelled quite a bit over the last few years. I think me and my partner have travelled 6 times internationally since COVID. So, you know, not a huge amount, but I feel like a good amount. And I've went from being very, very anxious at the airport, hating flying, to kind of just being a little bit indifferent about it. Not my favourite thing in the world, but I've definitely found strategies to help me cope with it as being an autistic person and with ADHD. So I thought we'd run through the specifics. I am specifically going to be covering the airport and flying in this video, but if you want more specifics for being in a different country, holidays, things like that, I can do that in another video, so just let me know if you want that. But this is specifically going to be for the airport and then flying. So first tip, and if you're subscribed you know what's coming first because it's the biggest tip I can give to you, is a sunflower lanyard. People's education around these varies, so I'm going to do them as if you have not seen one before, or if you might have seen one during COVID but you're not entirely sure what it is. So sunflower lanyards stem from a charity, I think they're a charity, well, I don't know actually. It stems from a scheme from Hidden Disabilities, and the sunflower scheme is basically you wear one if you have a hidden disability. Now this isn't specific just for autism, this is for literally any hidden disability. So this could be for someone with MS just as much as it's valid for me who is autistic. You might have seen them doing the rounds in COVID. It's because a lot of people who had hidden disabilities were mask exempt. But this isn't just for masks, this is for just anybody who wants people to know that they have a hidden disability. So for me, I wanted it so that if I was acting a bit strangely, people would look at the hidden disability and then just kind of know to leave me be. There are many different reasons you might want to wear these, but it just lets people know that you are somebody who needs extra support sometimes. I have a little place card with mine that says I am autistic on it. On the back there is also ID, and these symbols represent things to go along with it. So mine is please give me space, I may need more time. Then that one is I can't remember what that one is actually. Then I have one to show that my hearing isn't great because my autism does affect my hearing, and then please don't touch me. And then underneath it also has emergency details. So for me, my partner's on there with their phone number. You don't have to have one of these. You can just wear the lanyard. You can buy these from Hidden Disability and I will leave them below, but you can also get them from the airport. My first ever lanyard came from me asking people at the airport if there were any, and they have them. I think they actually, the scheme either came from airports or their first major partner were airports. Airports are the ones who know about these, and like I say, they normally have ones that you can ask for. So if you don't have one and you're going to an airport, you want one, ask security or ask the accessibility desk and they'll probably have one. I have this one, which is my main one. I also have a spare one because the second time I went to the airport I forgot my first one, so I have this. But you can also, and then I bought actually I think I got this one from the Hidden Disability because my partner bought me this and the pins that are on it for my diagnosis celebration. So I've just personalized mine on there. I have my pronoun pins, my pansexual flag, and then also the main autism charity in the UK, their little logo is on there. The main reason I found this so helpful is because, like I say, the airport knows what this is. They know what they're looking for. I only have really experience. Unfortunately, if you're coming from this from a UK perspective, unfortunately I don't have any experience at London airports. The main airports I have been to are Newcastle, Manchester, and I have been to Liverpool, John Lennon once in like 2018. But Manchester and Newcastle have both been great with this. They know what it is. So for example, I went through fast track security in my most recent trip to Cyprus that I came back from like 3 weeks ago, and I didn't have anything with me. I had this on. They looked at it, they knew I was allowed fast track, and they just let me through. Coming on to that is my second tip, is to use the accessibility desk. Now I actually didn't use this for Manchester, but they just pulled me out of the queue when a security guard saw me waiting in security with my lanyard on. He literally just came over, pulled me out and put me through. And I actually didn't use it in Newcastle, but I knew where it was because I was a bit unsure of it, but I'll tell you what you should do now. Go to accessibility first. I didn't go because we went in the queue for checked luggage first, and that took way longer than I was expecting. So then there was also a queue at the accessibility desk and I was panicking that we weren't gonna get through to get to our gate in time, so we just skipped it. But go to the accessibility desk first, tell them your situation and they'll tell you what you can do. From what I got told, because on the actual check-in at the gate I got told I should have gone through accessibility, is that they will help you through fast track. I also think that's true because we did it on the way back. So when we went in Paphos, we went accessibility after we went and checked our luggage in, and she personally escorted me from the accessibility desk through security, which was very nice. They can also help take you to your gate, and then that can also, I didn't use this, help you board first or last. I personally prefer last, but apparently the guy at the gate was telling me that I can choose when I want, so in future I think I'll definitely be doing that, because I always just wait and stand. Sometimes I have asked the people who are boarding if they'll let me go on last, and they normally do, but normally I'll just hang about. But apparently you can make sure that you are the last person on the plane with the accessibility desk. Third tip for the airport is to take your own food and your own water bottle. And I feel like I did this year. I haven't the last few years, and I feel like I finally learned my lesson, because I always get caught up in the like excitedness of like, oh, we're going on holiday, let's get some food in the airport, and then I always panic and freak out because I don't like the food in the airport. This might be different for London. I'm hoping that London has better options than Northern Airport, because there's not a lot. But I feel like even if you get in there and you feel like, oh, actually I like there, then at least you still got some of your own food for the plane, for when you get to your destination. We did that this time. We went and got a Tesco meal deal of the one that I know that I liked, and it was just so much less stress thinking, right, where are we gonna eat? What if we can't get food in time? We literally just sat on the floor because there was no chairs, but we sat on the floor, had our food, and then we went in one of the food places for a drink, which was just so much more relaxed and made me feel so much less anxious. Having our own water bottles as well. Every airport that I've been in for the last 4 years has had a refill station, even the ones internationally. So I remember like Gdansk had a refill station, Paphos had a refill station. I literally think everywhere that I've been has had a big sign that says this is where you can fill your water bottle, so just take your water bottle. Saves you spending money on plastic water, and also it'll remind you to drink, because you need to remember to hydrate yourself. Next one's a bit of an obvious one, but I'm going to say it anyway, and that is loops, headphones and fidgets. And this goes for the airport and for the plane. So in the airport, I actually didn't need to use mine. I did with my fidget. I have, let me find it. I have a lot of tangles, but they're not my favorite. This is my favorite. So this is like just a cube fidget, and it has loads of different things. It has like a spinner, it has some clicks, it has some sliders. This one is my favorite. I use this in the airport, but I felt like it was at an all right level because there was no music on, thank God, in the airport. But every autistic person is going to be different, and airports can get loud, especially if you're going on kids' holidays. So take your loops, take your headphones. For the plane, I use both. So I took my loops on the flight, but I didn't actually use my loops because I have some problems with pressure. So I used these, which are literally just little pressure earbuds, and they have like little holes in them so they can let pressure out your ears. But I use these, which I would say are similar to loops, but just for people who struggle with pressure. So I had both of these in, and my headphones over the top, and honestly I remember the first flight that I did this, and it made me feel so much better, so much better. And these block out sound so much, I struggle to even hear stuff through my headphones. So it kind of, my stuff that's going through my headphones is background noise because of how much these block sound out, which is just great. Because I feel like on flights, the thing that I struggled with one of the most with sound is the engine, not the people. I mean, the people bad, but the engine really like got to me. So having these that block out the majority of sound, and then my headphones, which are noise cancelling, I use Beats Studio 3s. They're not the best noise cancelling anymore. My partner has Sony's, and he said when he did his flight, his long haul flight, they were excellent. I will actually I should have caveated this at the beginning, but I haven't ever done a long haul flights. These are all for short haul. I have no idea how I'd manage on a long haul, but anyway, he says his Sony noise cancelling were excellent. But for me, these and my Studio 3s were enough. And this is a lifesaver because I hate, like I say, I have a problem with pressure, so I actually get some pain when I'm flying sometimes. And this, like being able to squeeze down on these switches, excellent, like because I can put a lot of pressure through this and it's not going to break. Like a tangle kind of breaks easy, whereas these, they're literally, can you hear the button? I can press on these, so I love this. Fourth tip for the airport is to watch come to the airport vlog or tour before you go. If you can find a tour, perfect. That's exactly what I'm meaning it for. So you've seen what it looks like before you go and you kind of know the layout. Obviously not every airport is going to have a tour, so vlogs can be great to show people like going through the motions of what you're going to do. But having that, perfect. I would say like the biggest tip is to pick one airport and fly from one airport, but I 100% know how expensive that can be, especially like if you're someone like me where Newcastle's your local and prices go up at Newcastle. So if you're somebody who has that budget, I would say try and fly from one airport. I mainly fly from Newcastle. I've flown from Manchester once, meant to be twice. I think. But we actually had a bit of like a faff with our holiday this year where it got cancelled last minute. And I remember my biggest scary thing of rebooking it was when the travel agent was like, well, we could fly you from Midlands, Teesside, and I've never been to those. And I was like, I do not want to fly from there. Like, I really, really, really don't want to fly from there. So if you can, try and stick to airports that you've been before. But I understand how expensive that can get, so definitely try and watch some videos of those airports before you go. It does feel like I've set myself up for a shameless plug, but I didn't mean it in that way. But I do have come to the airport vlogs, 2 for Newcastle and 1 for Manchester as well. The Manchester one was rushed though because we nearly missed our flight. Next one, I think I've thrown mine out, but you can get airport passports. Airport passports? Autism passports. So I don't know if this is everywhere type thing, because the one that I got given from TUI is a Northeast Autism Society charity thing. So I'm not sure if they apply everywhere, but basically TUI printed me off an autism passport for Newcastle Airport. The inside had things like how I prefer to communicate, my name, what I struggle with, and it was mainly to give to staff at the airport if you don't feel like you can communicate via speaking, which was just, it was great. I'd never seen it before. Like I say, TUI printed it off for me when we were in sorting out the cancelled holiday. And I actually didn't use it because no member of staff like asked for it. Like, I had it in my hand waiting to give people it. But I don't know if that was because I had Jack with me, so they were like trying to just like, I'll communicate with him, because obviously I was wearing my lanyard. But if you are solo traveling, or if you're traveling more as like a friendship group and you don't have somebody who can be like your sole helper, maybe it would be more useful, and then you could just give them it instead of them like looking to somebody else to help with you. My final one for the airport specific is accessibility lounges. Again, I have no idea if this is everywhere, but Newcastle has an accessibility lounge, which is literally just a lounge, not a lounge, what's it called? A gate specifically for people with accessibility needs. And it's not there for any planes or anything. It's literally just so you can go and sit somewhere quiet. I'm over the moon Newcastle has this. I think it is brilliant. I hope everywhere has this. I think you could probably just say it as like a quiet space. More places are getting quiet spaces at the minute, which is just incredible. And I would hope that everywhere has one of these. So have a look before you go to the airport. Ask when you're at the accessibility desk if you don't feel comfortable going there. Ask just any staff. The second time I got my lanyard at Newcastle Airport, that's where they directed me, and it was dead quiet. It was lovely. It was really nice. They had people working there who had lanyards on, so who would understand you, and they checked that I was okay, everything. I was a bit flustered, but they were lovely. So definitely see if your airport has that, and if you need a space to go sit that's quiet, or just if you're having a really rough time of it, just go there. Go if you need it. I'm so pleased that airports have them. Right, coming on to the plane stuff. The first one isn't really a tip, but it's just something that I kind of want you to be aware of that I have found in my personal experience. This might not be the same for everyone, but I have found that airport staff are so much more receptive to this than stewards. I have never had any sort of interaction around this from a steward where they've asked if I was okay, if I needed anything, like when I've gone on the plane. But the airport staff, whenever they see this, they will check in with me if I'm okay, if I need anything. Like I said, that guy in Manchester, he pulled me out of the line and was like, go through. Stewards never seem to have done that with me. And like, there's been a few times where, like I say, I try and get on the plane last, but if people haven't sat down, I'll normally ask if I can stand in the like vestibule bit, like where they welcome you on, until people sit down. And every single time I've asked that, they have been so weird with me about doing it. Like, it literally just happened with Cyprus, and they've been a bit like, yeah, if you want. And I was just a bit like, oh god, like, do you not know what this is? The only time I can think that I've had a semi-okay experience was actually Jet 2, and she literally let me stand on the stairs until was like as late as possible, but I'm not entirely sure whether that was a steward or somebody who'd walked up from the gate with me. But just something to be aware of. The people who are on the plane might not be as receptive. It might just be because they're busier. They have like more time constraints, they have more serious jobs to be doing. And I'm not asking them to like treat me specially, but it's just the compassion isn't there as much as the airport staff, I've personally found. This tip is going to be very specific for what your autism needs. So for me, my tip is to do an aisle seat. For me, that allows me to have my legs spread out a little bit if I need to. I can stretch them out a little bit more. It makes me feel like I have a bit more space because there's this big space between me and the next person sitting along. It means if I need to get up to have a walkabout or to go to the toilet, I don't have to worry about anyone apart from myself. It means that my arms can have, it just makes me feel less constricted. But if you are somebody whose autism thrives off being in like a smaller confined space, go in the window seat because you're going to have a lower ceiling height, you're going to have someone sitting next to you, hopefully someone you know, and that kind of like, not squishing because obviously there's room, but that little bit more confinement is going to make you feel a bit safer. Go for that one. Figure out which you need and do that. I personally switch between the two, but ideally I'd probably go for an aisle seat. If it's like an overnight flight, I know I would like to go for the window seat so I can lean my head against the wall and go to sleep. In regards to seating, this last holiday, we actually did extra legroom seats for one of the first times. And there's two parts to this. So one, great. It was worth the extra money. I have never felt so comfortable on a flight as I did with extra legroom. Loads of room. Second, I did receive a lot of questions because you have to be able-bodied to be in those seats and you have to be able to respond in emergency. The stewards were actually better in this instance. They asked everybody on the row if they felt able-bodied and able to follow the instructions they had just gave. I said yes, and then that was it. But the guy at the gate in Newcastle, he was adamant that I wasn't allowed to be in those seats, even though I'd had that conversation with the TUI travel agent in the shop. She was making sure that I felt comfortable enough that I could do the emergency procedures, but the guy in the gate was just not like, he was not comfortable with it. It's so funny because he was the one who was telling me I should have went through the accessibility counter so I could board whenever I want, but then he was like, he left me, like after he'd said that, he left me. And then while we were waiting for the bus to come, he was like, hang on, actually, what seat number are you? And then he was like, are you sure you can sit in those seats? And I was like, yeah, I've talked about it with the TUI people and we've decided it's fine. And he was like, so you're not a nervous traveller then? And I was just a bit like, I mean, I bet there's nervous travellers in the extra legroom seats. And he was like, so you feel like you can deal well in an emergency? And it just felt a bit like, I've said I'm fine, leave me be. It felt like he didn't believe me. So the reason I'm pointing this out is that if you do go for extra legroom, which I think it was so much better for me and it made the flight so much more manageable, if you go for them, you might get people being a bit weird with you at the gate. Hopefully not, and they'll have been trained to accept your answer because you know your own mind. But if you don't feel like you can do those things, obviously you're not allowed to sit in those seats because it's an exit row. But if you feel like you can and you go for those seats, just be prepared to answer some questions. My next tip again is very specific to what type of autism you feel like you have, but bring something to smell. And that is so specific because that is something that I struggled with when I was younger a lot more, when there was food on planes. So my grandparents actually stopped taking me abroad because I couldn't deal with the smell on the plane anymore. Like they literally just couldn't take me anymore because I'd have a meltdown on the plane. And they used to give me lemon hand wipes to sniff. Like we used to go to Cyprus and I used to have to literally sniff this lemon hand wipe for 4.5 hours because I would have a meltdown because of all the smells. Now I actually find it okay, but there has been some instances where the person sitting next to me has ordered coffee, and coffee is one of the smells that I can't deal with at all. So having something to smell would be perfect in that situation. It could be something like a hand wipe, it could be something like something you've sprayed with an aftershave or a perfume that you like. Just something that you feel like is going to overpower a smell of something that's going to make you feel really not great, and just having it there just in case that smell happens. I also do feel like planes have a smell, so if you've not been on a plane before, take that just in case you don't like the smell of planes. Penultimate one is just bring loads to do. If you've got room in your hand luggage, bring options. You want to be as distracted as possible, and I am victim of this where things will work one time and will not work the next time. One flight that I did, I think to Egypt, I watched 2 movies, distracted the entire time. This time it didn't work. I watched 1 movie and I was bored out of my mind. On the way back, I had my Switch, so I played Animal Crossing whilst listening to music, and that worked. So just take a load of options. Take a Switch, take a colouring book, take movies downloaded, take a book, have Sudokus on your phone. Like I have They're some of mine. Sometimes Sudokus can keep me occupied for ages. Sometimes I'm bored after doing one. I actually downloaded some TikToks this time as well, which was quite useful. I think that kept me occupied for like the first hour of the flight this time, and it was great. So just make sure you've got options. My last one is to have calming music, and music is very, very personal, but I would just say try and have calming music rather than music that's gonna get you a bit hyped up, because then if you're hyped up and you've got all this energy, especially if you're ADHD like me, and then there's nowhere to go, you're gonna get anxious. I use classical music. I love classical music anyway. I use it a lot in my everyday life, but I will always, without a shadow of a doubt, listen to classical music on the way up and on the way down in a plane. If there is any sort of music that gives you like friction, use that. And then like when I was playing Animal Crossing on the way back this time, I just listened to that, and that was good enough for me. And it really, like, because it's music that is important to me and gives me like that friction, it makes me happy even in a situation that I'm not particularly happy with. Oh, I missed one for the airport. So tiny little final one. Sit somewhere you can't see the planes. Don't go to the restaurants that have just walls of glass. That makes me so much worse. Like if I can see them, all that's on my mind is like, I'm going on a plane, 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 I'm going on a plane. Sit somewhere we can't see them and you might actually forget for a little while. Honestly, it feels so obvious, but once I started doing that, it made me feel so much better. So yeah, that was the final little one. Now, like I said, all of these tips are going to be very, very specific on how your autism affects you. Autism is a huge spectrum. So if you have tips that I haven't mentioned that work for you, please leave them down below. Make this like a resource for other autistic people. If you're struggling with it, somebody else is probably struggling with it somewhere on the spectrum. So please, if you have any tips, leave them below. Like I say, I have just done a trip. So if you want to watch my airport vlog, that is there. This trip, honestly, it's been the best I've ever been on a flight using these tips. And it sounds horrible, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. So if this is your first time and you're feeling super, super nervous, you are going to feel super nervous. You might get there and it might be an absolute breeze. Fingers crossed for you. I hope that's your experience. But genuinely, every time you do it, it's going to get easier because you're going to learn what works for you and what doesn't. If you found this video useful, I would appreciate any engagement. That's a like, comment, subscribing, sharing the video. Doing any one of those things is going to help me grow my channel. It's also going to let me know that you enjoyed this type of video, and then I'll do more like it. Like I say, if you want any more autism travel content, let me know and I'll do a video more specifically on what you've asked for. But even if you don't do any of those things, thank you so much for watching till the end. Good luck on your trip if you are going, but I shall hopefully see you in another video. Bye.